This is Joan Conover, the Seven Seas Cruising Association, and we are part of doing the Annapolis Cruising Lunch virtually with Beth, who's sitting at the coffee shop or
Leeward Market.
Okay.
And Leeward Market. This is where we normally. Yeah, this is where we normally meet, right?
And right now we have Rudy Asage. I have trouble pronouncing your last name, Rudy.
Well, I'm Jill, sitting in for Rudy. It's Sachet. It's French. Okay.
And then there's Beth. And then there's Frank Smith. And Robert Patterson, he's sitting down there in St. Martin. And Rob Fink. And Walter Keith. Walter has unfortunately got a bit of sound and issues. So we're going to be talking to him through chat. And he's the host in Reedsville, Virginia. It's open for cruising visitors, lots of assistance. You'll find the contact information on our SSCA database. But I'm going to turn it over to Beth for some comments. One of the things that we do want to do is to send a good get well to Al Golden, who is, he's had a stroke and he's in rehab, but it is not good. But he's talking and he's Al. So we're going to do some cards for him and stay in contact. But Beth, why don't you start talking over some of the agenda and what we're going to try to share with folks and comment. We're going to record this and then also share it with other members of SSCA as part of a concept of how we're going to be doing our virtual lunches. And this is the first one, Beth, so go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good afternoon, actually. Good morning, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces. Rob, it's so good to see you. Frank, it's good to see you guys again, too. So we used to meet monthly here in Leeward Market for lunch. It was the Cruisers Lunch, and we'd have, basically just a chat forum, just discussion of, items that have to do. We're busier in the winter time when people are obviously not cruising, but what I wanted to do this lunch is, in lieu of the fact that we normally had our Seven Seas Fall Gamma program, which was supposed to be at the Maryland Yacht Club, which was canceled because of the pandemic. I mean, that was our opportunity for everybody to get a chance to talk and mingle and discuss their plans and what they're going to do. And this is really taken on a whole different venue right now in lieu of COVID. We have a lot of, I can speak from being in Annapolis here, there's a lot of boats here right now. And it looks like a full anchorage. It's the kind of anchorage we normally see. This is also the boat show weekend, which was also canceled. So there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of coming and going and people just discussing what are their plans, what are they going to do. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis. I think Joan's got the most up-to-date intel. Rob's in St. Martin on the Dutch side. So Rob actually made the passage, about 2 weeks ago from Puerto Rico to St. Martin. So he can give us the latest on what he experienced. And otherwise, Joan, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, let me see if I can start my video up again. There we go. Hey, Chris Parker just joined us.
Hey, Chris.
And I think that's going to be great. I would like Chris to discuss, I know his time is so valuable. For all of us, Chris Parker on Marine Weather Center is, invaluable. And I'm hoping I can convince him to pass on COVID details once in a while as the season progresses, because boats offshore really are going to have trouble figuring out what's happening, but we can talk separately. But I would like Chris to share with us some of weather tidbits. I know that there's La Nina in place. He's watching the season. He's watching the hurricanes. He's watching what's going to happen. Maybe he can give us some projections. Chris, can you share with us a little bit?
Sure, John. Good afternoon. And well, everyone's time is valuable. It's not just mine. Everyone's time is valuable. But it's good to hear from you. And yeah, what would happen during a normal La Nina winter is Florida and the Bahamas would probably be good places to be, with weather relatively warmer and drier than we would normally have. What La Nina typically does in the eastern United States and the adjacent Atlantic and Caribbean is it causes, and I could show you a graphic if I was going to present this, but it causes the jet stream to be unified in a single jet stream that is generally around, somewhere along the US East Coast in the winter. And so that's the storm track and the nasty weather. What we might see in an El Nino year, in contrast, is we often get a split jet stream where the northern jet stream is further north and a little weaker, and there's a separate southern branch of the jet stream that often tracks from the southwest of the US through Texas, the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, and then up toward Bermuda or the waters north of Bermuda. And what this does is in an El Nino year, it would typically bring more and stronger and wetter cold fronts through the Gulf of Mexico, Florida, Bahamas area. And that often results in lighter trade winds in the Caribbean, but maybe more incidents of northerly swell in El Nino years. In a year like we have upcoming, a La Nina year, we would expect the Caribbean to have more persistent trade winds. That's not necessarily a great thing for the Caribbean, but the Bahamas and Florida should be generally more warm and dry with fewer and weaker cold fronts. And that's not to say we're not going to get fronts. We certainly will. It's just that at the margin, they will tend to be somewhat weaker and somewhat less numerous and somewhat drier than normal. So that's what we can expect, I think, with La Nina. I will be really curious to see how things go this winter for our clients, cruisers in general, and our business regarding how many people are going south and how many people are not. We saw in response to nasty hurricanes in the East Caribbean that, and that was what, 3 years ago, we had the devastating hurricanes in the Northeast Caribbean. In response to that, we did have a significant drop up of clients in the East Caribbean. There was a combination of delaying trips until a little bit later in the winter and changing the cruising areas, but it had only a very slight impact to the overall number of people cruising. Same thing with Dorian in the Bahamas. Devastating hurricane in the northern Bahamas delayed the cruising season a little bit, so folks went a little bit later, and some folks changed their geographical plans a little bit, but it didn't really impact too much the number of people who were cruising. Some people who really wanted to go to a specific place would put off cruising for a year and stay home. And I would say that in terms of our demographics, in any given year, typically maybe 20% of our clients take the winter off and spend it at home doing something else. So, go back cruising the next year. What I expect to happen this winter is that most people will take their 1 in 5 years off of cruising and elect not to go cruising this winter. So we'll see if that's what happens. And I also detect already that there's some change to the geographic areas people are planning to go. There's a little more apprehension about going to the Bahamas because my sense is that folks are thinking the protocols for cruising in the Bahamas are really fluid, and so they can't really count on what's going to happen when they get there. And in the East Caribbean, there seems to be some success in conveying a message that there will be islands that you can come and go to and from with relative ease without quarantines and extensive testing, as long as there aren't extensive outbreaks in those islands. And so it's kind of a travel-free zone if the island that you're going to or from does not have a COVID outbreak. And I think the East Caribbean is doing a relatively good job of conveying that message. So maybe folks are going to get less apprehensive about going to the East Caribbean. We'll see. And I get the sense that more folks are going to be traveling along the U.S. East Coast, maybe the Southeast U.S. coast, Florida, the Gulf of Mexico, rather than traveling into other countries where they might have a little less control over the situation. So that's just the sense that I get from our clients, and we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for that. We've got Robert Scott down in St. Martin. Beth was kind enough to bring him, get him to log in and attend, and he just traveled down there 2 weeks ago. But I certainly hope that everybody signs up for your services, because we need to keep you part of our cruising community, because you really have saved our tail feathers. I don't know how many times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you know, you will get something out of the service, even if you subscribe when you're staying home. Obviously, for a few months out of the year, you're not going to get anything out of it. But come summertime, we have unparalleled coverage of tropical systems, which do affect all areas of the U.S. East Coast. So you will get some benefits. And if you have a golf outing or, you know, something that you're doing that isn't boating related, and you have a question about weather and you're a subscriber, go ahead and get on the webcast and ask us about that. We're glad to give input on any sort of weather related thing, regardless where it is.
Well, again, thank you, Chris, for taking time off. I know it's busy with the hurricane. By the way, we have a cruising host that was in Alabama whose house that was a Davies. He lost his roof on his house, and his catamaran lost its mast. Tree fell on it, but the catamaran was fine. He's back in the water, and he left his house, and he is in Destin, Florida. And he said he's now a motor cat. He's made it under the bridges, and he's anchoring in places that he's never gone before. But I just talked to him last night. He's fine. I was waiting to see what the winds were. They were going to have 25 or 30, but he'll be doing a webinar to tell us what happened to him. And I'll turn it back to Beth.
Okay, so just real quickly, I want to just say a couple things. I guess, Joan, on the 15th, for those of you who don't know, there's going to be a webinar on the inlets of South Carolina and Georgia, which for those folks going down that way, that's, you know, most of the boats are big boats, so most of us are not going to be doing the ICW, so it's still nice to be able to pop in and rest for a couple nights, especially if there's some weather issues. So encourage folks to tune into that. I'm going to just turn it over to Rob real quick. Hey, Rob. So Rob Frink. About 3 weeks ago, Rob, you can kind of tell us your experience. So he last winter was down in the Caribbean during the whole COVID crisis. So I wanted to share with the group kind of what happened to you, your experience, and why you did what you did, which I think was, in retrospect, really smart thinking, and then what you're experiencing now. Rob? Can't hear you. You're no audio, Rob. There
okay. How about now? Radio check?
That's good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
good.
You're good. Yeah.
Yeah, so we came down last season and had to return back to Ohio temporarily in January. And then by the time we were available to get back to the islands, you know, the pandemic had kind of taken over and things were shut down. So we struggled with the decisions and decided to just leave the boat down here for the season and then stay back in the U.S. For the summertime. So now the boat, our boat is currently in Puerto Rico on the Hard, and we've come down to St. Martin and have moved down here. And so in another week, I'm going to head to Puerto Rico to get the boat and bring it over to St. Martin. You know, the word on the street here around the islands is that, you know, a lot of islands are open and are eager for cruisers to get here. And some islands are just simply not open or very challenging to get into. You know, for example, Anguilla is COVID-free and they really want to keep it that way. So they have some challenges to get into that island. There's a couple organizations that are working to make some of this happen. One of the organizations is the CARICOM, and these are it's an organization of Caribbean nations that have kind of gotten together to help promote, trade, economic advancement, among the different islands. And so there's this, a concept floating around about, Chris mentioned about creating a bubble. And the idea is that if you're in a safe, low risk country and you've been there long enough to determine that you are also safe, then you can freely travel to another low risk country and enter without any difficulty. And it would be something similar to what we used to, where you just pull in, go through immigration and customs, clear, and then enjoy the island. Currently, that's not the case, but those are proposals that are on the boards that are look like it's going to happen. So there's 4 CARICOM countries who have agreed to this, and those countries are. Hang on a second.
Wade, could you mute your background radio, Wade?
Okay, so the 4 countries that have signed up for this CARICOM bubble that are on board so far is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, Antigua, Barbuda, and Barbados. There's other countries that are in the CARICOM who meet the criteria but have not yet jumped on board, and that includes Grenada, Montserrat, St. Kitts, and St. Lucia. So these are the eastern islands that Chris mentioned, and it sounds like this stuff is going to happen, and that they are very excited to make this happen. I've got an airplane flying over right now. So then currently here in St. Martin, another organization, which is the St. Martin Marine Trades Association, has a proposal, which is kind of the concept is also this bubble. And St. Martin is categorizing countries as high risk, low risk, and medium risk. And their proposal is that if you spend time in low risk areas, and you're traveling among low risk areas, then you will be able to enter St. Martin like we did traditionally. If you are from a high risk area, then you will need to come to St. Martin with a COVID test that is negative within 120 hours of arrival. And there's proposals that if that's challenging, then there will be some quarantine periods and mandatory COVID tests here on St. Martin within 24 hours before you're cleared. There's also some verbiage for transients that will just be stopping here and how they're going to manage their quarantine. Also for charters that are picking up crew or picking up clients with the different levels of quarantine and working with an agent who assures that things are being followed by these guidelines. So I think very promising is that the countries down here are certainly working to make cruising happen this season. They certainly need it, and they're very open and very friendly about it. And again, it's going to be a very fluid and dynamic situation where one country may be a low-risk country, and then that may change. So the rules are going to be changing often, and so we just have to follow some of those websites, like Noonsite, and then cruising networks to see what's happening before you move around.
That's great. Thanks, Rob. So anybody else have any, Noonsite's great, obviously, but anybody else have any recommendations as to where the go-to places are for the latest intel?
Yes. We're posting on the SSCA COVID forum And if something big happens, then I go also to the Facebook forum, which has 13,000 members to reach out for. Also, Frank has made some comments about medevac, and I wonder if he has time to share some thoughts on some smart moves for these any boats that are thinking to go offshore, because he's certainly experienced.
Thanks. I mean, a lot of the stuff you need to pay attention to is what happens if you do get sick at sea. A lot of the medevac organizations won't take you off your boat. So you need to figure out what your medical evacuation base is going to be. So if you're transiting down through the Caribbean, you need to make sure that you might not be planning on stopping in an island, but they in fact have air access. Dan and a lot of the other insurance programs that offer medevac is almost required insurance these days if you're going to wind up transiting any of these high risk or medium risk countries. Getting a hold of Wings or one of those companies can be done through the insurance company, or you can contract directly with them. So a lot of the air medevac and air ambulance services are seeing a massive uptick by people that are tentatively traveling these days. And I think that's a pretty smart plan to have in your hip pocket. If you do in fact become COVID symptomatic while you're at sea, you're in massive risk because 99.9% of the boats out there will not have any capability of treating you or even self-treatment while you're out there. There's just not a whole lot that you can wind up doing. So that may in turn influence the pre-departure strategies for a lot of boats. We've been doing ourselves self-quarantining or self-isolating on the boat pretty rigorously before we depart on a trip, just to make sure we're outside of that initial symptom pickup window. Part of that's because I'm high risk being a flight paramedic, but part of the issue that you wind up working into is anybody that's had contact should make that a priority to stay isolated as best you can. Rob, I had a couple of questions for you because I'm a resident of St. Martin at Anse Marcel. And so on the French side, they've actually been pretty good about sending out notices that if you're not here, please don't come from the US. And I sent back a note about a month ago and said, but if I'm in a long transit, you know, does that count? And they said, yes, that counts, but they haven't officially come out with anything about vessels in transit. Have you seen anything since you've been there? I haven't talked to Carolina or any of the ones over at immigration in a month or so.
Yeah, so I walked over to the immigration office here at Cole Bay or Simpson on the Dutch side, and they were very clear that currently, if you do not get prior approval through the government's web portal, you are not allowed to come in. And I said, what about cruisers that we are simply not going to be able to get a negative test within the 120-hour time window?
The 5-day window, yeah. They
said, then you're not allowed. And I said, gosh, that's there was just no flexibility there. So the procedure to come into the country right now is to go to the government website, fill out a pre-approval application where you also upload your COVID test, and then you will get an approval form that you use to enter the country with, or to even board a flight if you fly down here.
That's the flight method. I didn't know if they changed anything for vessels.
Yeah, so I haven't heard anything yet. However, there is the proposal by the St. Martin Marine Trades Association that has a paragraph about people that can't make that. And this is a proposal, so nothing has come from government officials.
Well, MTA is pretty powerful, though. So
yeah, so the information I got this information from Island Water World. Renee, their general manager here on the Dutch side, shared it with me for this meeting, and he says, yeah, it's very likely that this proposal is going to happen, and so if there's a 14-day quarantine period, either without coming on shore or a mandatory or a 24-hour COVID. You have to have a COVID test within 24 hours of arrival in order to even consider coming on shore. So that's what I know.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Rob.
I read something interesting in the Wall Street Journal a couple days ago. Bermuda, somewhat relevant for us cruising. Their plan is they want to be known as a COVID-free island, and they think that that is going to increase tourism and get them back to normal quicker with tourism. And interesting, the number of tests that they're considering deploying. In a 14-day stay, you would be tested 5 times. Once before you leave on the airplane, so you do that whole uploading the thing to the test results to the website through your airline before you leave. Once when you arrive, and then on day 4, day 7, and I think day 10 and 14, you're tested. So that picks up anyone who is initially asymptomatic or initially has such a low viral load that they wouldn't test positive. It's meant to catch those cases later on. So I'll be interested to see if other countries do that and maybe have more testing but less strict or shorter period of quarantine because they're doing more testing. I don't know. That'll be interesting to watch.
They're also turning the southern Anchorage and St. George's into a huge quarantine area for boats. So, I mean, that's, if you wind up coming in and you're under yellow, they're going to move you over there and you'll stay there until you do your second test, maybe. I don't know that I remember the numbers, but you'll stay over in the quarantine Anchorage until you're pretty confident that you're clear.
I have information based on the OPO video that we just posted on SSCA, that offshore passage making, talking to people in Bermuda, and you file your negative test, your information online and pay $75 a crew. You arrive there. They also have a process where if you're coming in for weather only, and you just need to stay overnight and then head out, or stay for a couple of days and head out, you can actually quarantine over in that Powder Bowl area in St. George's. And then not even have to check in. You just do your Q flag and then you can leave. But that's in that OPO video, and I think all of this is changeable. So I'll turn it back to Beth.
Joan, what is, since you're working closely with the Salty Dogs as well, what are they doing right now for their plans for their offshore passage? Do they have a plan as the organization to get everybody a COVID test, or how's that working?
Yeah, down here in Hampton, we've actually got the Quora Labs are doing home tests, or you can sign up to do a test at their drive-throughs. So they will send you a test via FedEx. You send it back and they give you the results in 24 to 48 hours. So I think they're planning to use that lab when they leave Hampton to have the most current tests. But the thing is that once you arrive down, they're working with Antigua, because that's the island that they're thinking they're landing at. It's either Antigua or Bahamas. At the Bahamas, I'm not too sure how that's going to work, because they're off and on again with issues there. Antigua could change while they're on the way. So they're doing some webinars, they're doing a lot of planning. They do say that the quarantine covers your transit offshore time. So if you're 10 days offshore, then you only have to quarantine a couple days. And they've got some new entry ports. It's not all St. John's anymore, which was awful. But I think I don't know how many boats are going. I know some cats are showing up at Salt Ponds, which is our marina here in Hampton. And we will help them like we usually do with the single side van, and now maybe driving them around in our van. My husband just told me, and I'm like, oh. But they're planning, I think they've got like 20 boats planning to go to the Eastern Caribbean. I know Hank Schmidt with OPO has 3 boats going probably to St. Martin's via Bermuda. And that thing on Bermuda that Chris mentioned, yes, that $75 you pay for a crew covers all those series of tests that you have. And we were just joined by Bill Goebel.
Sorry, I'm late.
Oh, that's fine. And I'm going to turn it back to Beth. Do you have any other questions, Beth? Because we have so many videos up, and I was going to do a synopsis, kind of a roll up and post it on the forum. But we're posting to the COVID-19 forum. We are sending stuff to Noonsite. Noonsite sends stuff to us. And we just did a Western Mexico to Panama video that's coming up that has Behan Gifford and Jamie Holmes and Rick Boren and Mike Danielson and Russ from Shelter Bay Marina, and even the Galapagos, which is the Galapagos are actually open, that talk about that area. That is actually a cruising area that's possible, but you got to get there from the East Coast. It's a long way. Jill, did you have anything to say?
I'm just saying hi to everybody.
Well, hi.
Yeah, we're very remote, so we moved to Florida in the spring, but our boat is still up on the Chesapeake, so we're going to have to figure out how to get it down here soon.
Well, there's some good advice on the website, and we'll help you all we can. Don't forget, Keith, there at Reedsville. Is your boat up by Reedsville?
It's actually up on the Magathy right now. Probably going to haul out at the end of the month, and with COVID and everything else going on, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to move it. So we may actually be heading south in the spring.
Yeah, I think there's some people doing that. You watch the upcoming October 15th and then November 12th webinars, because we'll be talking the different places you can go. I think we've got some really good experts to talk the different places and entries and stuff. I don't know if you can go, you're going to do inside the ICW or jump outside. We'll have to jump outside if we go places.
Bill, I'll be at Eagle's Nest on Saturday, so I'll check on it for you.
All right.
And Bill, I'm up on just north of you, up on Bodkin Creek. So I live up there, have our boat there. So if you need any assistance with marinas or haul out, do you have arrangements already for haul out?
Yeah, we're gonna take it over to Jabin's and down in Annapolis, and they got a spot reserved for me. So we're coming up probably in about a week, and hopefully get a few days of sailing in before the end of the month.
Yeah, a lot of the marinas up here, they come November 1, they want everybody out, so they kind of draw the line pretty quickly. Sometimes, by the 15th, they kind of shut down. So
yeah,
Bert Jabin's, I think, is the 15th of November. They want everybody out, but
yeah, I've hauled out as late. Well, I'm over at the Magathy Marina, and there's quite a few liveaboards there, so I could leave it there all winter, but I'm not going to leave it in the water, while I'm 1,000 miles away.
right, exactly.
So we'll haul out probably at the end of the month, and we'll see what happens from there. We're in St. Augustine now, so the idea would be to get it down here, probably down to Jacksonville, somewhere on the St. John River, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Hey, Beth, I just got a note from Chris in the chat. If people wanted to see that. For the Salty Dogs, there's 52 boats in the fleet. Destination, 35 to Antigua, 12 to the Bahamas, 3 to Florida, and 2 planning to head to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And the U.S. Virgin Islands are kind of interesting. They will not take, you can't get there in time for their deadline for COVID tests, but they have same-day COVID tests. So you get in, I've talked to them. You get in, you drop the hook and say Charlotte Amalie. You make arrangements with a community lab, which is up the hill in the Paradox building. You fill out their paperwork and go up and have a same-day test. Or you can go to Red Hook on the opposite side and to the doctor's office there and get a same-day test. And then once you do that, you're no quarantine or anything. You're good to go.
Wow.
But then, of course, you got to do the anchoring fee, which is $3 a foot if you're a liveaboard, which we all are. And that's for moorings or anchorage, except if you go over to the state park and get a mooring over there. That's not, they were supposed to not do that after the COVID went away, but since it hasn't gone away, they like the money. So they're going to keep the anchoring
Yeah.
pieces.
Now, is that $3 a foot a day?
A month.
A
A
month.
month. Okay. Okay.
So it's
Not too bad.
$150 for us for a month, but
Okay.
you know, their anchorages, the rules are you stay 500 foot away from the shoreline. Well, that gets rid of Red Hook for an anchorage.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
have some other
Yeah.
places you can't be. And there's junk all over the bottom of the anchorage. I'm like, you know, if you're going to charge for it, you better clean it up.
If you guys decide to anchor over at St. John's, be sure you check your mooring. I'm not an anchorage if you're going to use the mooring balls. Some of them are really, really in bad shape. The pennants are 2/3 of the way through.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not, somebody's going to have a bad accident and someone's going to get, there'll be some legal action taken, even though it says you're on your own for the moorings. But if you have a mooring and you're charging for it, I think there is some obligation there. Probably, you know, gets into the marine attorney fights and stuff. I don't know, but Chris, we've got the boats coming to Salt Pond, so I'll be working with them on contacts and radios, making sure that something works for them. And I'm working about 5 SSPs right now, so they're, you know, but they're going to do, most of them will probably be doing the InReach or the Iridium Go.
Okay.
Just for your knowledge. But anyway, I'll turn it back to Beth. I'll be quiet now.
Anybody here in the meeting right now who's got any specific questions about anything to anybody else? Rob, sounds like you're a good contact down St. Martin. I don't know if you're willing to give out your contact information to the group if anybody's got any questions down there. It sounds like you're really well connected. You can do by chat. If anybody wants to get Rob's contact information, just do by chat. Or you can get a hold of me.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Rob. That's great. That's good intel. Anybody in the group here who's planning on heading offshore, or I'm stuck here this winter, I'm working.
Right now, we're headed
Anybody
down
who's
the
there-
ice. I was going to just say we're headed down the ICW today, and the conditions have been pretty good. Not many cruisers on the ICW, but the usual shoaling at some of the little inlets. We're north of Wrightsville Beach today, and we're dodging those shoals coming down.
What is the attitude of people down there in terms of passing through? I know the states are very different in terms of how they're managing and how they are, you know, letting people mosey around.
We're not seeing much of any in terms of limitations. When we were in the Chesapeake, we felt that Maryland and to an extent Virginia were much more, you know, restrictive in managing everything. I thought they managed everything very well. We were in Oriental, North Carolina 2 days ago. Hardly anyone was wearing a mask. So, you know, it's a slight difference in different spots as you go south.
But you didn't find any real restrictions in terms of entering any of the marinas, or I don't know if you're using the marinas, but in terms of, okay.
Yeah, we haven't seen any restrictions. The fuel docks are mostly open, so no problems.
That's good to know. Yeah, Maryland, we're pretty strict here about that stuff still. I mean, even entering, you know, it's masked is mandated. So that's kind of keeping things quiet. Frank, what are you seeing? Are you still up at the yacht club up there? You seeing any transients come through?
We're seeing some, but mostly loopers. We've got a couple that are working their way down. Instead of going direct offshore from New England, they're coming down the East Coast. I think most people are going to hug to Florida and then probably bridge hop either to the Bahamas or through the Bahamas. We've talked to a couple of people that are heading down to Turks and Caicos that were in the marina last week. So there are a couple of people. It's not nearly the migration that we usually see, though. So, I mean, I think the traffic volumes are light, pretty much like they were saying. I think what we're winding up seeing mostly is people that are coastal hopping.
Hey, one thing I was going to point out is that Marathon Marina, who's our host down in Marathon, Florida, Marathon Marina, that's Susan. She has tremendous openings for slip reservations. All of the Canadians aren't coming south, so she's pretty nervous about it. So it sounds to me like maybe going down there, there'll be some room in that marina. It's a nice marina. There's also the Anchorage there in Marathon, but that's an option for some boats. I think Florida's going to get stuffed this year. I talked with Ed Tillett of Waterways Guide, and he's got a wonderful site there that says what's going on with marinas as you go north and south. So you can look and see what's open or where there's a problem. Some of the North Carolinas haven't recovered from the hurricane yet. But there's going to be a lot of movement, and people are going to be sitting probably in Florida. Back to Beth.
I think a lot of the Waterway Guide's updates and timeliness of reporting, I mean, you combine that with Chris's weather, and you've got a pretty good visual of where you're going. You got a good idea of what's happening on the ground and in the air. So, I mean, it makes for a pretty powerful combination.
Can everybody hear me? Good, good. Oh,
Yeah.
hello,
I
everyone.
hear you, Robert.
I was just curious, probably from Rob Frink, are locals consistently wearing masks throughout the islands down there?
It's kind of mixed. Yes and no. You know, certainly when you walk into grocery stores, hardware stores, you know, shops, masks are definitely mandatory, and you're not allowed to come in without one. And when you enter the store, there's also hand sanitizing, and about half of them will take your temperature. Restaurants and bars, on the other hand, you know, nobody really wears a mask other than the employees. So, you know, I guess I don't really know how to answer it. Some people wear them and some people don't. You know, Kelly and I are very careful to watch our environment and to avoid any sort of environments that we think might be risky, like a bus that's you know, loaded with people, or a tight space that's enclosed and people are not wearing masks. So I don't know if that answers your questions or not. Some people do, and some people don't.
I've just been thinking lately about activities around the islands, and normally to get to most of these places, you would board a very crowded taxi or a bus with no social distancing possible at all. Obviously, there's a compromise there for being able to get around the island and see things unless you get your own transportation. Is there a feeling about how locals view foreigners being out around the island unmasked?
So, and that's mixed as well. You know, there are the locals that have a very high distrust with the government and believe that much of this is the whole COVID pandemic situation is fake news or somehow politically motivated. There's others that are terrified who will wear masks and face coverings, you know, when they're walking by themselves on an empty street. But yes, our reception here has been very, very friendly. They've all been very grateful for us to come down. It's, you know, friendly island, St. Martin, and they really overall have lived up to that. You know, they memorize your name immediately, and they recognize you and constantly say hello to you when they see you again. So yeah, there's no, you know, we're not wearing a scarlet letter coming from the U.S. When we get here. So come on down and enjoy the island.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Just a note to Joan about the salty dogs. I was talking with Sheldon yesterday, and besides the pre-departure COVID test, I think they're encouraging all travelers to take daily temperature checks and log them and have that as evidence upon arrival. to help support entry. Probably not a bad idea.
I think everybody should keep a log on their boat. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You log every hour anyway. Well, why don't you log your health of your crew? And it's a historical or hysterical record sometimes. So that you have backup. If someone wants to ask questions, you've got a list of here's everyone's temperature every day. No one was sick and all that. I think that's a very smart move to make. Also, Rob, what are you doing for insurance, health insurance down there in St. Martin?
So Kelly and I just signed up with Cigna that has like an international travel package. And so they give us coverage internationally. That's what we have.
Thank you, Rob.
We usually
Sorry, I
subscribe.
don't have any more info on it.
We usually get a local insurance cover while we're living there, and it works out pretty well. It's fairly cheap, but pretty well covered. There's good medical care on St. Martin. Of course, with the medical university there, you got access to some pretty good stuff. So what we wind up doing is going through a local policy broker just to get a national plan, and they have a visitors, and they also have a residence plan, which is for the non-citizen residents. So you can do that locally within the country if you're going to be there for a while. It's portable to St. Bart's and the other French maritime, overseas maritime department islands.
For those of us who might seek medical treatment down there and then back bill our own insurance companies in the States, what are the relative costs for treatment throughout the islands generally? Cheaper than what we would normally find in the States, just on a cash basis?
Rob, you can answer that, or I can.
No idea.
Well, I can answer that. It's actually significantly cheaper for the most part. The quality of care is on a par with the U.S. You're not going to find a level 1 trauma center there, but at the same time, you will find good internal medicine care. It's probably 75% of U.S. rates. Pharma is probably 40 to 50% of U.S. rates. If you have an unusual prescription, you may want to make sure you check in with the pharmacist when you get there so they can order you some. Their inventories are not huge, especially after their rounds of hurricanes. But as far as the general care, it's pretty good. Dental care is less than amusing. It's European standard care, which is less than U.S. care. So if you've got bridges and dentures and whatnot, you might want to make sure you're in good shape before you head out.
So you're saying not a good place to get a crown if I need one?
You can get a crown, but the crown will be porcelain, not custom cut.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll make you a crown. They've got a lab on the island that's over in Phillipsburg. But the issue that you wind up working through is that it's not going to be to the same standard that a U.S. custom lab would be.
Sure. Just as long as they don't whittle it out of wood.
No, it's not wood. It's actually out of, never mind. Yeah. Somebody made a comment about a mother of pearl crown one time, and I took a look, and sure enough, that's what the guy had a crown made out of. But
Wow.
anyway, it was a veneer. But the care there is actually pretty good. Like I said, there is a teaching hospital there, and so they do have pretty good care. You need a CT or an MRI. They have them on the island, but they do take a while to get to because they have 1 or 2, not 30 or 40. The doctors are pretty well trained. They're either all American or European, major medical university trained. And don't be surprised they're roadside clinics. So.
Right. And Antigua's got a teaching hospital there as well, in Antigua. So that's got a pretty decent facility. And then some of our U.S. doctors do train there as well. So that I know is pretty good.
The barbecue joint beside the one in the barbecue place beside the one in St. Martin, though, is actually really good. It's one of the best barbecue restaurants on the island. It's usually full of medical students and the associated comedy. Anyway.
So Robert, are you heading south?
That's the plan, yes. I've been talking to Sheldon. I'm not sure yet that I'm going to join the Salty Dogs. Good possibility. Nice to see you, Chris. We may be talking more soon. That's my plan. I'm curious, Rob, when you were mentioning the bubble that's forming down there, and it's probably quite fluid, and hopefully more countries are joining. You didn't mention the Grenadines and Grenada, did you? As part of that bubble?
They are part of the bubble, but not with the French Islands. The French Islands are not part of the CARICOM bubble at this point in time. SVG we posted on the forum all the rules and the paperwork for that. That's Beckway. They still require a COVID test if you leave or if you come in. Grenada the same way. And every day seems to change, so you just have to check. And of course, Colombia and Trinidad are still closed. Panama is open. And the west side or the east side of Central America, I don't have a lot of details on that right now. Mexico is fluid, but they're open. So Puerto Rico, our host there, Jose Mendez at Marina Pescadera on the west side. His marina's open. They do tests there. You can do customs there. So if you had to come from the Bahamas south and duck in somewhere, or come north towards the Virgins and duck in somewhere, Puerto Rico might be not too bad a place to slide in if you can find where you're comfortable going into, and then continuing over and south. We've done kind of weaseled our way around east and west all the way around there. So has Chris Parker, done a lot of that. So, the Virgins you can go into and get the same day test, but then it restarts your quarantine clock with Antigua of 14 days. So, I don't know.
That's an interesting point, Joan, is a lot of these countries don't recognize the other country's clock. So a lot of times if you touch base in one, you've reset all the ones that are further down route. So you need to make sure that you have a clear understanding of your transit times and what that's going to do to you. I know that the Spanish Virgins are kind of fluid right now, but when they're open, they're actually tripping up a lot of people that are going into Puerto Rico proper and into the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
Because if you stop there, it stops your clock and restarts it.
There is, I'm not really familiar with using Zoom here, but in the chat section, I posted a couple of links to describing this CARICOM efforts. Are you able to see them?
Yeah, you did it right, Rob.
Okay. So Robert, your question about the Grenadines, in one of those links, it does say that the Grenadines was one of the 4 initial countries that had signed on to a CARICOM bubble. But read through those websites and for a better understanding and maybe the latest info.
Rob, that you've got obviously an update then, because I'd understood that the Grenadines were intending to do it, but have they actually done anything with it yet? I know they were on the original letter of intent, but I wasn't aware that they had actually set up any of the processes yet.
That's a good question, and I don't know. The only information that I had on that was from this website with that link.
Yeah, I just posted a PDF from them, Rob, where they talk about what the rules are for going into SVG, the Grenadines. So I'll try to send it all to you guys, a copy to everybody so you can just see it. It's on the forum, but I'll haul it out and post it to you guys, all of you. So in case you don't get the forum, you can see it.
Right. And of course, due diligence is important here to make sure that you understand everything, just because things change and there's information and misinformation. So definitely do your due diligence before you make your decisions.
British Virgin Islands are closed till 1 December. I don't know what's going to happen there, so they're kind of on my X list because it's hard to tell what they're doing. And does anyone else have any other comments? Beth, do you want to, Beth, did we lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm still here.
Okay, okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. So I just want to make sure this is, again, my intent today was just to have a forum. Again, we missed the big GAM that we normally did, and that was our time for all of us to get together and plan, to talk about what we're going to do. I know we're scattered everywhere. I'm up on the Chesapeake. I don't have any intent of going anywhere this winter, except to visit Rob. Come February, I'll come down visit you. And hopefully things will be a little bit quieter by then, so I won't have any issues trying to fly in, fly out. But just an opportunity for people to touch bases, and then Joan to do a shout out to the upcoming webinars that people need to, because of the one that's coming up on the 15th, which talks about the inlets. Going down that way, that would have been for me very valuable when I transgressed them basically cold, and that was a pretty miserable experience. We actually ran aground, and that was not fun, coming in the inlet and running aground. So that would have been good intel. But anybody have anything else they want to add? Chris, I really appreciate your time. It's always good to see you. Chris has been a big supporter of 7 Seas and the Salty Dogs. He's a real good supporter, and he's going to give you guys, Robert, if you do go with the Salty Dogs, like I said, I've done that passage with them twice to Antigua, and I was very, very impressed. Chris is going to have basically almost hourly intel, even up to the point you leave and then while you're offshore, and that I found super, super valuable. Rob, what was do you have anything you want to put in about the Salty Dogs and your experience? Because Rob did it with us the first time. He was our crew, and then we were Rob's crew the last time we went.
Yeah, so I've done the passage from Hampton to Antigua 3 times with the Salty Dogs, and also done the Maine, Nova Scotia rallies with them, and just can't say enough about the organization. It's all positive and wonderful experiences. Chris Parker's support weather-wise along the way is outstanding. Their shoreside coordination, all first-class stuff.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. We've recorded this, and Chris, I hope we'll do a longer webinar with you, just focusing on the weather. I know Salty Dogs has got you doing one, but a little bit later into November, I think is a smart move, because I think boats are going to be doing the East Coast and probably waiting a little bit to see what's happening. And Rob, I hope you stay safe down there. And Bill, I hope you and your bride are safe and get on the water and head south safely. And Robert, I hope you get safely south wherever, and no matter what, use Chris Parker. Sign up for Chris. We sign up for him every year.
Yeah,
and whether we're sailing or not. And Beth, I'm just going to say thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I was able to do this. And Bill, if you guys need any help while you're in the Chesapeake, let me know. So
We'll do that. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome. And Frank, are you staying in the Chesapeake this winter, Frank?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm probably going to roam around. I may run offshore, but Thanksgiving will be in the Rappahannock, so I'll be around. If anybody needs anything, sing out. I'd be delighted to come help.
All right, very good. All right, if nobody has any questions, I'll let you go. I have a Zoom wedding to go to in another hour. My nephew's getting married this afternoon, so I'm going to log. He's in Wisconsin, which is not a good place to be right now. And it'll be curious to see how they pull this off. So, hey, thank you everybody for your time, and hopefully we can do something like this again next month. Rob, it's good to see you. All right.
Thank you, Beth.
Hey, Beth.
Thanks,
everybody.
Walter, thank you very much. And I'm sorry your video and stuff doesn't work, but we'll try to see you in Reedsville. We'll get some boats to you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Beth,
Yes.
if Al or Eileen need anything, sing out, let me know. I don't know if you or Joan will hear from Eileen, but if they need anything, let me know.
I forgot. I didn't forget. It's just Al Golden had a stroke, and it's affected him. He's in rehab. He'll get home in about 2 weeks, and we're doing a card and shout out via the forum. But it's very difficult. He's a very dynamic guy, and this is going to have severely impact him, and we really care about him.
Yeah, I told Rachel, but I didn't know if they might contact through you. So if they do, please sing out if they need anything at all.
I talked to Al on the phone because I didn't know he'd
Oh.
had a stroke. 2 days ago, I talked to him on the phone.
Well, I intentionally haven't called them, but
I was surprised. I mean, because he sounded like just regular Al, and he said, "Well, you know, I'm in the hospital," and I didn't know. But
that would be it. That would be Al.
Yeah. So that was Al. Al's there. You know, it's just physically, it's going to be a challenge to recover. He'll be home in a couple weeks. I talked to Eileen. She said she didn't need anything right now, but we're going to do a real shout out for Al.
He's always been such a good supporter of the cruising folks, and it's you know, I'm still hoping we can get him back in the fold come spring. So.
Yep.
Well, goodbye, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Joan, thanks for doing this.
Okay.